Welcome to our time sweep this month, and it's all around being heard. We had a lovely introduction, kind of conversation around this, Richard. Thank you. Um, and there's a lot in this space that we are in, I think, as a collective, not just about being heard, but also hearing ourselves. I think a lot of making sure that our voices come out as ours instead of as what is around us. I feel there is a theme of betrayal. Am I betraying myself by consenting to being in certain spaces or um, following certain ideas or whatever it is? Yes, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Richard, as to how do we address this aspect of, I feel there's a lot in silence here, in we don't need to fight, we don't need to be shouting, to be heard, but to hear ourselves authentically is often a difficult aspect because there's so much noise on the outside that doesn't always um, resonate with us. Yeah.
Well, what we've talked about and I've discovered recently is the word betrayal comes up, but also like self-betrayal. So many times as children, we were in situations, we do it as strategies, in well-meaning to try and fit in, to try and find ways to be safe, to be acknowledged, to be heard. So we learn strategies in order to be how we be seen and heard. And those strategies, again, work at the time, even if it keeps us from harm. But as we grow up, if we don't understand how to be in our truth, and again, we may have parents, and I realize this in a situation, how we are as parents, in a sense, do we say the same things at home that we say to the people in public? And I believe when I look back at my raising our kids, the way we spoke to people in public was the same way we spoke about them at home. We weren't two different people. So we didn't put on a mask or a mirror. And I look back, and it really gave our kids what I call a foundation of themselves, because we just were ourselves at all times. And then weren't trying to fit in. We weren't radicals. We weren't trying to, we're involved in sports. But again, we realized our behavior was so consistent because it was just who we are. But for many, they play this game of, the person's out there in public, they're being nice, and you get home and they're making lies, or they're making up some derogatory comments. So as a child, you see this mixture, and also so you're feeling like, well, I don't know who I need to be now to be loved by my parents, because they're looking at me in many different ways, approval, disapproval, like it can flip on a dime. And that's, I think, a lot of families, they just suddenly, you've done something wrong, and suddenly you're being sworn at, or, being demonized for spilling water on the table. So out of fear, things like that, you develop strategies around that. And then, little thing like that, but it's, and again, I grew up with a harsh father, so I know that, but I was able to stay in my course.
Yeah.
But it's when we're somewhere else, that trepidation is still with us. Fitting into a table, sitting at a family dinner, sitting somewhere. So we're trying to be nice and trying to fit in and be jovial, but we're not being ourselves, and we're not really thinking. We're so focused on trying to be somebody or something in a situation, we're not even in our own mind of what we want to or do or be or say.
Yeah.
And over time, and I just had a session with a lady about this, this is decades later, was this incredible sense of recognize her own betrayal, but came in as her own disgust of herself. And we're not wrong for that, because you're like, I've done this for so long and it hasn't worked. And I mean, for decades, and why I'm looking at the situation, and it's the same, not fitting in, but what I realize I haven't accepted myself. And long-term betrayal and disgust goes into other layers of emotions like bitterness, and you swallow the bitter pill, and it eats us alive inside. You wonder where people develop illnesses from. It's from our own emotional discord that goes on for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah.
And sadness. I watched my own mother die of cancer from that, and it's like just the internal sadness that she buried, for all those decades, eventually took her life.
Yeah. because we have, you know, the depths of our emotions is sometimes too big for others to understand. So there's an element of shame in it. Um, but I think what I hear what you are saying is to turn inward, you know, when you're not reliant on the validation from the outside, um, then you don't need to betray yourself because you don't need to be whatever you think other people want you to be. Oh, yeah.
That's a big piece right there is that validation. I think most of the society is an external validation, looking for their approval, their acceptance, and that's part of your, personality. But also, we have a system in society that draws that out of us, that you must look for that, and also this huge piece called comparison, like
Yeah.
the death of anything. So, if we just recognize that, am I doing this for them or me? That's a question. Who am I doing this for? So we're not looking for them, their approval. Because ultimately, when we walk away to be ourselves, can we be with ourselves and say, who do I want to be and what do I want? That's important for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
not for what fits into the group. So
Mm.
when we look at this aspect of how to release the energy of this, it's just recognizing it.
Yeah. And it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because as soon
yeah.
as you are aware of the pattern, there is no pattern anymore because there is awareness. There might still be the experience of the elements of that, but it kind of shines the light on it, dissolving a lot of it, just by the fact that there is a awareness or recognition. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because again, when we become aware of that core truth of ourselves and our own admittance of it, it's not a failure.
Mm.
That allows you, even in the emotional freedom technique world, to recognize that truth, and finally, and you, in truth, your body says, finally you see me, finally you hear me, because the body is the key holder of our emotions.
Mm.
It's not in the mind. The mind may have an image, but the body is a reactionary principle of that. And when we recognize the truth of that in our body, it's you're being true to yourself. That
Mm.
we say, can I accept myself? When you think back and no, I don't. Okay, that's your truth in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm disgusted with myself. That's not degrading, because where we get caught trying to say an affirmation, but the truth is not the affirmation. So now we're lying to ourselves. We're adding to the problem.
Yeah.
So by being truthful, yes, I am disgusted with myself. I am ashamed. Okay. I do feel, we can add some other verbiage in there. I do feel like this,
Yeah.
but again, be truthful. Be truthful in that. We're not, that's what's going to help us release it.
Mm.
It's when we go into this denial of it, and I've seen personally people who stay in this happy zone and just try to ignore themselves. I mean, physically and mentally and emotionally, they have terrible lives, because they're
Yeah.
not living in their truth. Their bodies they're lying to their own body, they're lying to themselves. And their life, there's no flow in their life. They're trying to do all these things to fit in, because I watched these over the years. I mean, several of them are dead now. They died of cancer.
Yeah.
So,
And that kind of is that toxic positivity that
oh,
it has
there we go.
become such a lifestyle, you know, just be positive, then everything will be fine. But it won't. I'm sorry. Because sometimes there's grief and sometimes there's loss and sometimes you're angry and, you know, these things are real. You can't just be positive all the time because it just doesn't exist.
Sometimes when you go for coffee, you get a shitty cup of coffee.
Yeah, there is shit coffee.
So it's honoring yourself in these moments, because it's not negativity, it's truth. When you
Yeah.
do it in a way, and a constructive way, to say this, now what I like to do. It's not like we're saying, because when we deny it, we go into there's the anxiety, there's the racing mind. Well, it's not racing in positivity, it's racing in decay.
Yeah. Yeah.
driven by our own untruth.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's something wrong with me if I'm not feeling positive today, you know?
Yeah.
I must fix this. Um, but then the psyche, I mean, has its own layers, and there is all kinds of stuff happening there, and this shadow element of who we are isn't not supposed to be there. You know, we can't just shut it off and think it's not
Oh,
going to come back and go, hang on a minute, do you see me? You know, can you hear
yeah.
me? Because I'm also part of you. Um, yeah.
So let's run some clearings on this, and this is where we go into our truth, because it's just by honoring it, whether you do some tapping or a regulation hold bring up, but also with the clearing. So bring in our team. Open all timesheets on this sense of betrayal of self, betrayal of who you are at the core. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. Open all timesheets of this early betrayal. When we learned this, how we learned it doesn't matter, but the fact we did betray ourselves, and that's all the strategies we developed around that. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. Open all timesheets of the lies we told ourselves to try and fit in, the lies to connect with others, lies to feel safe, the lies to feel loved, all the ways we acted out and ways to fit in, where we did all these nice things, but look back, it wasn't us. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And when we really look at that, often over the term, we look back and we feel a sense of disgust. Disgust with ourselves because we didn't know any different, but the emotions are still real. Disgust is still real. The bitterness is still real. So let's honor that. Open all the timestamps of the disgust when we look at ourselves many years later, sometimes decades later, and the disgust we feel inside about who we are, who we've become from this distortion, this acting. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to reach source and beyond now. Open all timestamps on this disgust, this bitterness, and the shame. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to reach source and beyond now. Open all timestamps on all the unacknowledged emotions, all the unacknowledged parts of ourselves that were in this journey. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And again, as children, we develop this to be safe. That's a strategy. We're always seeking safety. It's these strategies that carry into our adulthood, trying to be somebody or something, trying to live our life with quality, but inside there's emptiness. We're not wrong for it, but when we recognize it now, do you want to change it? Everywhere you denied yourself the ability to really see your own truth and who you are, because maybe that was more terrifying than the role or act you were playing. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. Open all timestamps of all unacknowledged emotions and feelings, and all the times where we stuffed our feelings down, where we didn't speak our mind, didn't speak our truth in order to fit into a situation or be something, someone for someone else, a partner or a family, children, where we played on roles and took on jobs and roles, helping things out that really we wanted no part of. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all timestamps where we stayed in situations to fit in somewhere, to fit into a financial or an academic strata that we wanted, thinking this is going to be my life, this is going to be how I want to be in this world, because but we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for someone else's projection. Open all those time sweeps. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate. Now. And open all time sweeps where we have betrayed our own knowledge and our own wisdom and our own awareness to try and keep peace because we're afraid of the backlash, afraid of everything else, but that fear is overwhelming us. And it sickens us inside because we're so stuck in a pattern. Open all these patterns that we're sort of sitting in and rotting in. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all time seats where we've stayed in this stuckness because we felt we weren't smart enough, weren't bright enough, didn't qualify enough to step in and speak our own truth, to be ourselves. It was best just to be silent, and therefore no one would call us out. But we realized what we're seeing around us was pure idiocy, pure garbage, and yet we haven't been able to step in our own truth when we recognize it's not like we're better, but we know another way. We know another way to do this and how we want to feel about what's going on. Open all those aspects where we really haven't acknowledged our own incredible wisdom and knowledge and strength. Open all those little denial doorways, steps, and stairs. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open up all time seats where we haven't allowed ourselves to just step away. Just step away and say, no, I'm going to choose something else for myself, my own fulfillment. Because at the end of the day, the only mirror we need to see is our own. The only reflection we need to see as our own is what did we do for us? And by not living our truth, is that what we're teaching the people around us not to? Is that what we're teaching our children? Thinking it'll be a good life if you do it like this. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all the time sweeps when the projection out there is when they show people stepping away from the so-called world that you suddenly become a hippie or homeless or you look like a bum. And now, well, I don't want to look like that. You know, all this patterns of avoidance they create for you not to be an individual. You could be just as wise as them in another fashion, another form that's true to you. It doesn't mean you're going to be suddenly wearing beads around your neck, wearing baggy jeans and ripped clothes, and looking homeless and getting firmly rejected. You could be brilliant in your own way, brilliant in your own manner. And what's true to you. Anywhere we've denied our brilliance and our path of authenticity that is of equal quality to anyone else out there, anywhere. Open all those time sweeps of distortions they projected upon us, distracted us from, shamed us to porn, and created enormous patterns of avoidance. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to root source and beyond now. And open all time sweeps again of this cannon fodder approach that if you don't stay in this tribe, this group, these people, this money situations, you're going to be ostracized and living on the street, and we won't like you anymore. And the truth is, you may not have liked them anyway, so why would you care? Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all time seats where your truth may not be that much radically different, but it may be an insightful way that you can live, you can be, you can offer help, support, wisdom in. And you can still be true to your heart, because at the end of the day, the only person we have to be true to is just ourselves. Open all those time seats of not recognizing how important we are to us. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to each source and beyond now. And open all time sweeps of where we have denied ourselves our uniqueness, or haven't found ways to find it, but there is ways to see what is so unique about me. What is so unique and special that I could be for me first. And then when I accept me fully, others will also accept me because that's just how it works. Open all those time sweeps, all those aspects of feeling like we have to go some sort of level of judgment or approval rating by the systems or society. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all time sweeps where we judge ourselves and have judged ourselves for our silence at times and regretted. I mean, really regretted for not saying something of quality. Thinking back, and every time we regret it becomes another a layer of obstacle for us. But regret just builds because we haven't been able to speak. And then, well, you didn't speak there, and why would you bother now? Everywhere we have that mindset of that awareness and that casting of doubt, open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all time sweeps on the clearing of this statement beyond the shadow of a doubt. It's used as a holding pattern. It's used in courts of law, but it's also an intercept for others. Everywhere that the phrase beyond the shadow of a, you must prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. Everywhere that energy of that statement is being used, open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to, through each source and beyond now. And everywhere we have had this little niggling energy of doubt, it's so invasive and yet so subtle. Just ask yourself, do I doubt this? What is that? It can be used for curiosity, it can be used for good things, but often the energy of doubt over time drains us because it becomes a contrast in our system if we don't acknowledge it. And it's so destructive and subtly because it's like a fungus that just grows in our gut and drains our life force. Everywhere doubt has cast such a big shadow in you, open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, to, through each source and beyond now. And open all time sweeps on all this, the doubt, the shadows of doubt, the castings of doubt. I doubt this, I doubt you. Everywhere it's used or thrown upon us like some sort of blanket garbage statement. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And open all time sweeps where people have used this word, well, you have to prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt. And statement is, I don't have to prove anything to you. I just have to acknowledge it for myself. And everywhere we've given our power away, but to someone else's false authority on that statement and the garbage that it comes from it, open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate now. And anywhere people hide behind that statement, you must prove it to me because they're afraid of their own stuff. It's a garbage shield. Open, clear, delete, destroy, eradicate, obliterate, eradicate, obliterate, eradicate, obliterate, to, through each source and beyond now. And I am complete.
Thank you.